non-Moravian source. The source whom we call God, whom we call the creator of all that is, whom we call the infinite spirit, known by many different titles and names. And I come in divine integrity and by the authority of the Spirit of the Father, the Spirit of truth, and the Holy Spirit which dwells and works through me. So I see someone has come to join us. Good evening. Welcome. Make yourself comfortable wherever you'd like to sit. And this evening I am going to share with you, or we're going to discuss, the topic of the nature of the relationship between God and man. And I intend to share with you some perspectives relating to this specific topic. And the perspectives that I'm going to share isn't from any religious text or any book. In fact, it's a little different. It's a perspective that has been gained from my personal life experiences as well as revelations I received from the Spirit of God within myself during my meditation practice. I will demonstrate to you how it is that it is through the human experience that one can find the divine within oneself, and in so doing become transformed to an extent that will allow one, if one desires to take the necessary steps to reach the topmost pinnacle of human unfoldment. Okay, so I'm going to start by telling you a little bit of my story, because it really is about how I discovered the God within myself. So I was born in Trinidad in the Caribbean, and I grew up there. I was the second of 5 children, and both my parents were in the field of education. And I suppose it's very much like Jamaica, where education is very important. I was baptized Presbyterian, and I grew up attending the church that was in the village that we grew up in. So I attended with my parents church and Sunday school quite regularly. In fact, my father used to lay preach at times, and then he got turned off the church. Anyway, I was familiar with the teachings in the Bible. And then I progressed, as I progressed in Trinidad, I always knew at the age of, I think I was 13 years old when I realized that I wanted to be a lawyer. So I made the decision at the age of 13 that I wanted to be a lawyer because I was always rights conscious, very much into justice to the people and things of that nature. So I studied and I addressed my intellect to that area, and I qualified as an attorney at law in Trinidad in 1994. Yes, 1994, and I began to practice as an advocate in the High Courts in Trinidad. Now, I grew up quite sheltered, quite reserved, conservative, had a sheltered life, naive in many ways, but like many young girls, I would say, had this fantasy that one day I'd meet my prince, and I'd get married and settle down and have a family. My parents were very good at encouraging us to have a relationship with God, but my relationship with God was a dual relationship. And when I say dual, what I mean was that I was taught that God existed outside of me. It was a being who was over and above me, reachable through prayer. Not too sure if he answered the prayer. Yeah, he heard. If he didn't answer the prayer, well, maybe he didn't hear, or maybe what I've asked for wasn't me. So that was the position for many years. So I this sort of eclectic environment with an appreciation for all people and their different religious persuasions. But my relationship with the source was one of duality. And as I said, this was the case for many years, until circumstances conspired to stretch me beyond my comfort zone, out of my traditional thinking. And that happened really when I left Trinidad to go to England. So I'll tell you the story there. I was practicing as a lawyer in Port of Spain in Trinidad for about 4 years, and I was dating a gentleman who was a medical doctor. And in those days, they were able to go to England to pursue their fellowship in surgery. So he had decided he was going to go, and he asked me to go with him. Didn't want to get married before, much to my parents' displeasure. You know, but I always say God is on my side, and the hindsight is the best side, isn't it? It was perhaps part of God's plan for me to leave Trinidad and go to this bigger country where I would have been exposed to a different life, where I would learn to appreciate different cultures, a different way of life, different peoples, and really to expand my consciousness and my way of thinking and perceiving things. So I went with him. I decided I would leave. I left my job, I left my family, I made all the sacrifices that I needed to make in the interest of love, because I really thought I did love him, and I did. He was my first boyfriend, okay? Anyway, I went with him, and I decided to pursue a Master of Laws degree at the London School of Economics, and that course lasts for a year. And he had said to me we would get married at the end of the year, when he finished his fellowship in surgery. So at the end of the year, perhaps he thought that I would, if he changed his mind, I would have no choice but to return to Trinidad. But God had other plans, because I did so well at the university that I was basically chosen by a firm, and they sponsored me. They agreed to sponsor me to be an attorney, a solicitor in one of their offices. So at the end of that year, he said to me, you know, I don't think marriage is for me. I'm a loner, marriage isn't for me. So I was of the nature in those days, I so wanted love, I so wanted this person to love me, that I was willing to do whatever I had to do to earn that love or to keep that love. And I said, oh, don't worry about it, no pressure, take your time. Not thinking in my naive state of mind that he actually wanted to end the relationship but didn't know how to end it because he had somebody else. So a few weeks after, when he realized that I wasn't going anywhere because I was being sponsored and I had gone back to Trinidad to return right after I got the papers, he very abruptly and bluntly, after 6 years, ended it on the phone in 1 minute. So now, part of me was heartbroken, part of me was relieved, because if I was honest with myself, there was a part of me that recognized that I was having to work too hard to make this relationship work, and he wasn't doing anything. But so desperate was I for love. That has been a common theme in this lifetime of mine, my search for love. I promise we are getting there. After, I had to forgive him, because I was so distraught. A year after he broke up, I heard he was getting married to an English girl. And I was distraught because I felt betrayed. But I had a wisdom through my relationship with the divine, and again it was a God I prayed to outside of myself, that I had to forgive him. And I did forgive him, and I moved on very buoyantly, optimistic that the right man would come my way. Met someone else about a year later, and we both felt that we were kindred spirits. And he was very, very, eager. He was an Irish guy, very eager, very loving. But after about 3 months, he said to me that he couldn't control what he felt for me. It was too overwhelming. And he saw how it affected his parents' marriage, and he didn't want to go there. So he had a... Okay. Now, but he couldn't let go, and I couldn't let go. And I began to receive guidance from Spirit that they had brought us together, and that he had many issues. And Hazel, being as she is, decided, well, Hazel is going to save this man. So I, together with Spirit, through prayer and through energy healing, spent 4 years of my life, 4 years of my life, apart from doing my legal work, I sacrificed 4 years of my life in the interest of this deep and abiding love and soul connection I felt with this gentleman to help him. So you see a pattern is emerging here. And so what I was trying to do with the encouragement of Spirit was to fix this person, or to help this person deal with his issues so that he would feel that we could be together. Okay. Well, eventually, those who look after me in Spirit drew me away from that. And I must say that I do not regret that experience, even though it was 4 years of my life, because who I am today was birthed because of that experience. I began to be open, the world of Spirit opened up to me because they saw the capacity that I had to love. They saw the devotion that I had to love those who I loved. And they saw the sacrifices that I was willing to make in the interest of love. And little did I know that Spirit was looking at me very intently during that time. And it was during that time that I began to have a lot of metaphysical experiences. Dreams were very, very prophetic. Spirit would speak to me through my dreams. I had a spirit manifest in my room one night, and I recognized him as one of my guides. But I was going through, it was a very emotional time for me, and at some point it was very traumatic. And I didn't have control of my emotions at times. And I eventually moved on, and the beauty of that was that there was no bitterness. Because of all the prayer, all the work that I did for this person, I said to God, I said, Father, even though I didn't get him, it doesn't matter, as long as he benefited from the work that I did. So I said, well, now God must send me somebody. Someone who would treat me as I deserve, who would give me the love that I so wanted. Well, I dated a few other guys, and it wasn't as emotionally traumatic, but equally disappointing. And then, this was in 2009 in May. I am very resilient, I don't give up, but for some reason I felt I was doing everything I needed to do, and I wasn't attracting what I desired. So I sat down on my couch in London, and I decided to have a good cry. And I called out to God, and I said, Father, Father, why have you forsaken me? I never did this before. I have never ever done that before. I always progressed with faith, but I had enough. And I said, why have you forsaken me? I have given and given so much love, and you cannot even send somebody who would love me? I laugh at myself now, but it wasn't funny then. It was so... And remember, I was alone in England. I had no family there. I wouldn't tell my parents this back in Trinidad because my mother would cry at the drop of a pin. So I had to deal with all of this on my own. When I called out to God that weekend, I felt, and it wasn't one day, it was over 3 days that this happened. So I cried for 3 days, let's put it that way. I felt a cloak of comfort descend over me. And in the days that followed, there was an inner stirring, and I began to feel a wellspring open up within me. And I felt as if love was just bubbling. I was replete. Exactly what I was searching for, pure, unconditional love. A love that was balanced, a love that was wholesome, a love that was real, is exactly what I began to experience, but it was within myself. No one was bringing it to me, no one was giving it to me. I began to feel an opening. You know when your heart opens? But it wasn't just the heart, it was my entire being filled, totally replete. And I experienced such a state of bliss in those moments and the days to follow. I became transformed. I recognized that what I was searching for and seeking outside of myself, I had already owned it. Now, mind you, I wasn't asking God to send me someone who would share their lives with me. I was asking God to send somebody who would love me. And he was showing me that there's no one who can love you as I love you. And he showed me, he pointed to me where he was. He said, I am your God. I am love. Love and God is synonymous. I am within you. If you want love, you come to me, but you come within yourself. Some of us are very good at loving others. We're not good at loving ourselves. We have to connect to the God within us so that we can experience that love. And I had what was called a baptism into truth, because I recognized that it was not so much the fact of God's existence that was important, but it was my ability to feel the presence of God within myself. And how better to feel that presence, but to feel the love of God moving within me. Allowing you to feel whole, allowing you to feel complete, allowing you to feel perfect. There was no need that had to be fulfilled. I wasn't lacking in anything. And he brought me to that point. And in the days and weeks ahead, I was led to people and resources that enabled my consciousness to expand. Instead of just praying and listing off what I wanted to God, I began to meditate. I began to find periods of solitude where I was, with intent, I said I would like to connect with the Father within me. And through perseverance, it didn't happen overnight, through perseverance, I began to hear the inspired thinking of God through the language of light. Because God speaks to us through the language of light, which is the language of inspiration. And I asked him, what took you so long? Why did you take so long to answer me? And he said, you had to go through your testing. You had to learn your lessons. You had to come to the point where you needed me. You wanted me. You desired me. And he said, do you think that I was not looking at you all these years? He says, do you think that I did not see your great capacity for love, the sacrifices you were willing to make, your devotion and dedication to those you love? He says, well, I wanted you for myself. Not just for one man, but I wanted you to share this quality of love with as many of my children as possible. And I heard the call. He called me, and I answered the call. And I began to experience such a feeling of intense connectivity. I cannot begin to express to you unity I felt within, the oneness that I felt within. And it was as if when I found the love within myself, I found the God within myself, and I began to experience the ecstasy of eternal oneness. No longer did I feel as if I was separate from the divine. I felt empowered. I felt I could take on the world. And I began now because the first thing he said to me was that there are no boundaries, only infinite possibilities. And through my meditations, I began to receive such wisdom. He opened my heart to experience my quintessential nature, which is the God within myself. And each one of you have that same nature. He actually began to teach me how it is that he could not, or the energy or consciousness of God couldn't be outside of us. He said, the Creator is always within his creation. He said, I am omnipresent, yes, but I am omnipresent also within you. He says, for the purposes of your physical experience in this material world, in the interest of your soul evolution, I am within you. Do you think I would leave you alone? Do you think I will remain outside? No, I am within you. And he began to show me, and I mean show me through my meditations, that the spark of divinity was anchored in each of our hearts. He said, I gifted you life, consciousness, and free will, and it is anchored in your heart, sealed with my love, wisdom, and power. That is where you come to look for me. That is why today you will hear a lot of people talking about being heart-centered and opening up your heart, because that's where the divine actually dwells. And he said to me, in the silence of man's soul lies the seed of God's love. He is also present in the soul as he is present in our minds. Okay? Our test really as human beings, or soul, spiritual beings having a human experience in the material world, is to adjust the thinking that is influenced by the ego mind and allow the Father within us to quicken our mental faculties, so we begin to tap into higher ways of thinking, higher perspectives, that which I call cosmic thinking. Okay? Now, through my meditation, he actually began to use certain, quotes from the Bible to show me that it is impossible for me to be separated from you. So he reminded me of the promise that Jesus made. He says, when I leave, he was speaking to his disciples, my Father and I would pour our spirit onto the flesh. And at the Pentecost, that's what they did. So if they poured the Spirit onto the flesh, we must be carrying the Spirit of God within us. It is impossible not to have the Spirit of God within us. And basically, he was also emphasizing that each of us, we have God potential. Because we have identical God presence within us. So the spark of divinity is not just in Hazel, it's in every single one of you here. That is identical God presence that we share, which has God potential. So when the Christ says, be ye perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect, he was referring to that God potential that we all have because of the Spirit of God that dwells within each of us. So maybe it wasn't said directly, but in many ways they were trying to educate, when you walk the earth, Christ walked the earth, trying to educate the people of those days to recognize that God is part of the human experience also. He's not separate. He feels what we feel, feels everything that we feel. So someone could sit and speak to you infinitum again about God. But you could never know God truly unless you begin to feel the presence within you, or the inner promptings or inner workings of spirit. You have to begin to feel the Spirit of God living and working through you. And what happens at that point is that you become totally transformed. Now, in one of my meditations, the Father showed me a corn on the cob. Now, these things do tend to happen. So I said, Father, why are you showing me this corn on the cob? He says, well, if you want to peel the layers off, what do you see? I said, well, I see these beautiful golden kernels that are on the spine. He says, well, exactly. He says, each kernel represents one of you. Each represents one of my children, held in unity and togetherness by the spine which I am. He was trying to tell me that you could never be separate from me and you could never be separate from each other. And that is why we are not only one with God, but we are one with each other. It doesn't matter what we look like, it doesn't matter what our race is, it doesn't matter what our nationality is, it doesn't matter what our religion is. None of that exists outside this material plane. The test for us as spiritual beings having a human experience is to overcome the illusion of separation and recognize that we are unified. Because think of this big massive energy we will call God or the source, and he projects his thinking and creates fragments, and each of us are a fragment. But at the end of the day, we all have to go back to that same source, don't we? We all have to be together. We are not just a manifestation of God, but we are the body of God which makes up God. We are that consciousness. So that was a beautiful lesson that he gave me, and he went on to say, I do not expect you to be automatons with robot minds, accepting everything you are told or taught, everything that you read. You are divine sons and daughters of the one you call the God of gods and the King of kings. Does that not make you a sovereign being? That is your inheritance. You are a sovereign being, and a sovereign being will take absolute responsibility for one's life. A sovereign being will not act as a victim. But a sovereign being with God potential will always avidly seek and search the truth. And he said to me, he said, whatever anyone puts before you and tells you that it comes from God, you come into me through your meditation and seek validation for it. He says you are a sovereign being. You are entitled to the truth. And I, the God within you, will give you the truth. Because this is where your spiritual consciousness is, within you. And I learned over the passage of time to develop a relationship with my spiritual authority, the God within me, through what is called spiritual intimacy. You know, when you're dating someone or you're married, you have to spend time with the person, nurture the relationship. But the same thing with God. You have to spend time with that energy, that consciousness within you. And you'll be amazed at the inspiration that you will actually begin to receive. So that is exactly what happened during my experiences over I would say the initial first year after I had my very grand awakening, when I was awakened to the love within me, because it was really God who was awakening me to the awareness of the love that I am. Because I am what he is, you are what he is, we are not different to God. He said to me in my meditation, I am but you grown in wisdom and presence. If you would like to be like me, you have to grow in wisdom and presence. And who could give you that wisdom? Who is best placed to give you that wisdom but me? And I began to rely wholeheartedly on the Father within myself. I would religiously, day after day, 2 times more than that if it allowed, go into meditation, connect with this consciousness of God within myself, the spirit of divinity, and begin to ask questions. I began to have conversations with God. And I would go to the Father within and say, you know, I was having this issue today, can you give me guidance? And I would begin to receive the guidance. And all the guidance I received, it was very edifying. He wasn't saying, oh, poor thing. He wasn't saying, oh, you know, feeling sorry for me. He was actually really helping to evolve my mastery. To achieve my God potential. And I want to, over the last 4 years, through my conversations with God, my work with the Ascended Masters and the Angelic Kingdom, I was given telepathically a lot of divine teachings and messages. Now, one of the beautiful benefits of finding God itself and developing spiritual intimacy and a deep and abiding, profound relationship with the God within yourself is that you become enhanced. He adds on to you. You become, it's as if your abilities just begin to blossom, your higher abilities, your higher senses begin to work. Not just the 5 senses we are aware of, but the higher senses. And those senses I'm speaking about, yes, the multisensory, the inner sensory. Claircognizance is a knowing. It's a God knowing. And when your crown, we have what's called energetic centers. When your crown is open, that's where you receive divine guidance from, and that's where you receive your knowing from. Your third eye is where you receive spiritual insight. You could see, some of you might see visions, you might get visions. That is where your third eye comes in. And all of those senses, they began to become activated. I didn't do anything. I just, through my meditations, and I had a great desire to explore the terrain of my God mind. I had a great desire to know more of this beautiful consciousness that dwelled within me and to align myself with this consciousness. It was intriguing to me. It was like an adventure to me. And I basically courted the source within myself. And before you knew it, I was having all of these out-of-body experiences, metaphysical experiences, and my higher senses became activated. And I want to share a little story with you. One night, I was doing automatic writing. Have you heard of automatic writing? It's when you put your pen, you get into a very meditative mood, and you create a sacred space, and you put your pen and you invite spirit to come and speak. But I began to work with the Angelic Kingdom because they introduced themselves to me. And I said, angels are in the room, move the pen. And after a few tries, the pen began to move on its own, and a message came from Archangel Michael. But the second time I did this, thinking that one of my spirit guides or angels would come in, mighty God is present. I was, what? That night, I got a brief message. I was overwhelmed. Before I went to bed, I said, Father, I really wish that you would give me a hug. I really want to feel a hug from you. I know you're within me, but I'd really like to feel your presence around me. And that night I had an out-of-body experience where my spirit jumped out of my body and I was standing on the bed, and I could see this very clearly. And I was brought down by the side of the bed, and someone was holding me, began to hold me and began to rock me. And as I reached out my hand, I felt a cloak at the back body. What I'm trying to say to you is exactly what he said to me when I had my awakening. With God, there are infinite possibilities. We must not try to define God or limit God, but we must surrender surrender to the infinite possibilities and be open to the beautiful experiences that we can, enjoy if only we would trust and we would not be afraid to surrender. Because, when we pass over from this earth, we're spirit, aren't we? So why are we afraid of spirit if that's our essence? We shouldn't be. And just to summarize, the whole principle of oneness and the concept of us being one with God and one with each other, before I talk about how the transformation can manifest once you discover the God within you, is this beautiful piece that the source, through my meditation, he wrote through me. And it's called "The Church is One Foundation." He says the church is more than a physical structure, whether it is called a church, a temple, a mosque, or a synagogue. The foundation is that which is divine, of God. The church is meant to be the foundation of all God's truth, values, virtues, qualities, attributes, and laws. It represents the body of God, which embraces all without distinction or discrimination, as the body of God represents the oneness of all. There is only one God, he says. There is only one body. There is one church, whatever you choose to call that church, and there is one foundation. He says, you, meaning the race of man on earth, have made the church, the temples, the mosques and synagogues a place of worship. Yet I say to you that you are the temple. You, being the body of God, are the temple where God resides. The foundation of the church starts with you. The church has been institutionalized, but God is not an institution and cannot be institutionalized or limited. He is sacred energy that is limitless in his eternalness. He says the body of God is not divided, and therefore should you wish your church to reflect God, then there should be no division amongst churches. In God's kingdom there is no separation, and therefore the church must condone only unity. In the body of God there is no inferiority or superiority. No part is better than the other, none chosen above the other. There is only oneness. And he goes on to say, and he wrote this piece through me, and I hope it will reach out to your heart. I'll read it very slowly. The church is one foundation in wholeness and accord. There is no separation, for each is part of God. His body can't be broken, yet all in him is free. United through the God-mind, his church will ever be. The church is one foundation, one light, one love in all. Each soul is in dominion, their birthright to recall. Through resurrected Christ light, their vision to repair, and knowledge to inspire, God's church to be revered. And he talks, the church is all of us, combined. The church is one foundation on which each life is built, the brotherhood of mankind, God's purpose to fulfill, his kingdom to establish on earth through hearts and minds, his light ever to burnish, his church ordained to rise. And when he says the church is ordained to rise, he means we, the body of God, are destined for ascension. We are destined to ascend out of the mold of the human consciousness into the mold of the Christ consciousness. We are not meant to stay stuck. We are not meant to submit consistently to tradition. We are meant to be seekers of truth. He says that As God beings, you must not compromise or surrender sovereignty. But if you do so, you are depriving yourself of one of the most inspiring and thrilling experiences of searching for and seeking truth, and facing the perils of intellectual discovery. Because the point is, when you begin to actively search and seek for God's truth, you might very well find things that goes against the mainstream teachings. And that is exactly what happened to me. What I didn't share with you all was that during the period of time where I was going through my emotionally traumatic experiences with my search for love, I used to light candles every night, and I would engrave it with the words, God's truth. And I didn't know why I was doing that, but I did it for years. That was me seeking God's truth. And I can say today, I have received it. God does not hear the calling of a sincere heart, pure heart, and not answer. When you have a pure heart, you will attract pure energies. God is pure consciousness, beautiful in all aspects and respects, wanting his children only to discover the presence of their inner divinity and to develop a spiritual relationship with the Father from within so that their lives can become transformed. And I can say to you, when I discovered the Father within myself, I experienced an all-encompassing, pervading love. And it had progressed to the point where I would be traveling on the underground, you call it subway or the bus, and I would look at the persons or people sitting on the opposite side of me, and I didn't know them, and most of the time they're not smiling because they're not very happy to have to go to work. Well, it's London, it's not easy there, okay? Anyways, and I would look at them in awe, and I would say, Father, oh my goodness, just as how I have your presence within me, they have identical God presence within them. And I honor them. You know, in the Hindu religion, they have a saying, Namaste, the God within me honors the God within you. And I would feel such an overwhelming sense of love for these people. And I would pray for them and say, Father, I don't know why they look as if they have the world on their shoulders, but whatever they are going through, I ask you to bless them, to minister to them with your grace. And you'd be surprised at how when you have that, you feel united with the presence of God within. You don't feel separated from people. It doesn't matter how they behave. Okay, you might get annoyed by people's behavior. I'm not saying that you wouldn't, but as part of your unfolding, the more you relate to the God within yourself, the more compassion you're able to show people. You will be less quick to judge and more loving. Because we don't know what people go through in their lives. We don't walk in their shoes. It's easy to, at face value, just to get upset and angry with something people have done. We as sovereign God beings need to take responsibility for how we respond. Because if you say you believe in God and you have a relationship with God, well then your response must always be in balance and harmony with the word and truth of God. God does not curse his children. Okay? He does not curse his children. God does not attack his children. God is ever compassionate, loving, and merciful. If he wasn't, we won't be here. Given what is going on in the world, you understand? And I remember it was last year, earlier this year, because you know, we are all work in progress, including me. I went to him because being a lawyer for 18 years, I was very pedantic, very particular. And I was very, very, competence was, you know, very, very important. I had very high standards. And this year, something happened, and a person who I knew and who made certain representations to me didn't follow through with that. And then in hindsight, I thought, well, perhaps we got our signals missed. My perception of what we discussed perhaps was different from her perception. But initially, I was a little annoyed, and I kept saying to myself, why can't people be competent? So immediately, I checked myself, because when you begin to feel the presence of God working within you, you become more vigilant of your thoughts, more vigilant of the words you use, of what you project, and the actions you take. So at once, I went in meditation. I said, Father, this was my experience today. I'm not very happy. I feel as if this person was incompetent. He stopped me right there. He says, I would very gently, these words came through, I would prefer if you use the word capacity. So I said, what are you talking about? So he showed me two trees. One was tall and very big, and the other one was shorter. He says, look at those two trees. They're both healthy, aren't they? I said, yes. He says, which one do you think have greater capacity to bear fruit? I said, well, obviously the bigger one. So he says, okay. So he showed me two identical trees. So there was an exhibition now, two identical trees. He says, well, which one do you think has greater capacity to bear fruit? I said, well, they're both identical, so they must be able to bear the same amount of fruit. He says, but you are missing the point. The point is that if those trees may be identical, we're all identical because we have that identical God presence, but if one is not being nurtured and nourished, and the other one is, well, you would expect the one that is being nurtured and nourished to have greater capacity, wouldn't you? I said, yes. He said, well, I would like you to apply that to what you were just your complaint. And that really touched me, because it really opened me up to a greater sense of compassion and a realization that though we are equal and we are one, we are at different points in our spiritual unfolding. And if I want to maximize my God potential and align myself with the source, then I need to really be able to see through the eyes of God. So I call upon him and say, Father, allow me to see through your impersonal eyes. So I looked at that situation with a higher way of thinking and to a different vision because of the insights that he gave to me. I said, yes, you are right. And this person is a lovely person. It's simply, perhaps we were looking at it from a different point of view. Our capacity, we are at different levels. And from that point on, I would look at everyone from a perspective of capacity rather than competence. So what I'm trying to say is that it is through meditation that you can develop that relationship with the divine and begin receiving spiritual insights that will allow you to maneuver in this world and allow you to become more aligned with the consciousness of God. And one of the things that I experienced through my transformation of finding the God within myself is such a sense of freedom. I became free from anxieties and fears. I'm not saying totally, but I felt a great sense of freedom. I would be less anxious, I wouldn't worry as much, I wouldn't be as fearful of certain things as I had in the past. And I had to make a very important decision a year ago when I was being pulled to leave the legal profession. I was a lawyer for 18 years and I was very good at what I did. I earned good money, and here was I being pushed to take up the mantle of service, to wear the mantle of Christ and take on that torch to serve. And I really wanted to do so, but I was worried about the money. How am I going to look after myself? I don't have anybody to look after me. So through my meditations, I went to him and he said, am I not within you? Yes. Do you not have celestial divine hands guiding you? Yes. Do I not look after you now? Yes. So do you think if you enter into uncharted waters, that I would desert you? Do you think that the same celestial hands will not be guiding you? He says, if you keep holding on to something that doesn't serve you, your life become more enriched. And that gave me a lot of encouragement. And then in another meditation, the Christ came in and he gave me a gift, a horse, a beautiful chestnut horse. And he says, I want you to call that horse Faith. And he put me up on the horse, and then the horse began to gallop. And the winds were heavy, but that horse was racing at a breakneck speed. And as I turned to look behind, the voice said, what are you looking at? There is no competition. In other words, you are not leaving anything behind that is a competition to where you are going to. And it was those types of divine messages and insights and comfort and encouragement that I was given by the source within myself during my meditation that gave me the courage to leave the legal profession. They said to me, hold your nose and jump. We will catch you. And they caught me. And it's been 16 months, 15 months since I left the legal profession, and I haven't been without. In fact, they opened the doors for me to travel internationally to spread the word, to teach, to run workshops. September this year, I was tired. I had a little dull moment, and I went up to the Father and I said, I don't like feeling like this. Can you give me some guidance? Because I felt the pressures of the outside world. And he said to me, he said, let not that which faces you on the outside defeat your faith. Faith finds its strength in the receptacle of promise, the promise of fulfillment. I lend you my grace that you might walk your faith promise. I often say to the Father, because I have given my life in service, there was no two ways about it. I said, Father, I am yours. It is my will to do your will. And that's another benefit of experiencing the inner transformation by finding the God within. Because it is no sacrifice to say, Father, it is my will to do your will. I consecrated my will to the Father. The Father's will has become the blueprint of every project, the foundation of every task. I often say to him, I say, Father, this vessel, this vehicle is yours. These hands are yours, these feet are yours. My heart is yours. My voice box is yours. You can speak through me. Unite your God mind with my mind that I may draw from the deep well of your knowing. I often say to him, Father, I am yours to do with as you please. And in one of my low moments when I went to him, he said to me, you know, you often say to me, Father, I am yours to do with as you please. He says, well, today I am saying to you, my child, I give you my life that you might make it your own. And when he said those words, I felt such a certain love within me that the God within me could love me so much that he wants me to experience him fully, that I might make his life my own, so that I could continuously walk my faith, use his grace to walk my faith to the promise, so that I continuously be buoyant in my faith and never give up. And I can say hand on heart that there is no going back, there is no deviation. You know, when they have a saying, when the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Trust me when I tell you, when you become united with God from within, when the spirit is willing, the flesh has no say. There is no temptation. You are so secured in the presence of the light that you become transformed. You will not hurt your brothers and sisters in thought, word, or deed. You will become humble in spirit, yet know that you are you will be humble in your outlook and in your living, yet knowing that you are exalted because of the Spirit of God that dwells within you. The more you love, the humbler you become. And you can only love if you discover the Father within yourself, because that love is transforming. When you begin to experience the presence of the source within you, you begin to surrender very gradually the ego mind. You know, the ego is that which takes offense and attacks. So offense and defense are frailties of mortal disposition. It is not of spirit. God doesn't have any need to take offense. He doesn't have to defend himself. God is inviolate law, cannot be violated. And if God is within each of us and we can align with our consciousness and feel united with our consciousness, then we too are inviolate. So if someone criticizes you or finds fault or attacks you, you will be unperturbed. The Father said to me, be unshakable, do not allow the world outside of you to shake you. It is not real. Okay? So you don't need to defend yourself. When you stand in your truth, the truth shines. The truth lives through you. You become a beacon. The whole envelope of your human form goes through what is called a polarity shift. And people will become endeared to you because they will sense that you are different, that there is a light that emanates from you that they perhaps can't even describe, but they know they want to be a part of your life or part of your experience. When you can experience God working through you and feel united with that presence, you will not see in lack, you will see in terms of abundance. You will not think in terms of competition, but you will recognize that there is enough for everyone, even though it may appear that that's not the case. You will esteem the highest and best for your brothers and sisters, even those who you're working with, who you might perceive you in competition with. You will esteem the highest and best for them, because no one could deprive you what God has for you. Okay? So what I'm trying to say here is that this inner transformation that occurs when you begin to unite with the love of God from within, and you begin to experience that presence working within you, and you're aligned with that will, your life becomes transformed. There is no fear. You will release fear, you will release anxiety, you will release worry, because you know that you will always be looked after. So in September this year, that was my birthday month, and I was tired because I had just come back from Malaysia, ran 4 workshops there, and I really didn't have the energy to work as hard as I did for the month before. And then I had a workshop and people dropped out of the workshop, and I became a little frustrated. So I was joking with the angels who I worked with, and I said, I wonder what gift you are giving me this year. Didn't get anything last year, you know. They said to me, we have a surprise for you. 2 hours later, I got a message on my phone saying that someone had donated £1,000 to me. I thought it was a ruse. I said, this can't be real. And I looked, I recognized it was a person who has been following my work for the last 4 years. It was a day before my birthday. That money went towards helping me pay my rent for September, because I hadn't made the money fully, you understand? And again, that was such a humbling experience to me. It was as if the Father and those the celestial beings were saying to me, all you have to do is trust. You are working for me now. All you have to do is trust and have faith, and I will look after every one of your needs. And that is exactly what he did. Now, everything I'm saying here to you in terms of the transformation that I experienced as a result of my discovery of the God within myself it didn't all happen overnight. It was progressive. I want you to remember the 3 Ds: desire, discipline, and dedication/devotion. If you have a great desire to know yourself, to experience higher knowledge, to explore the terrain of your God mind, to reap the benefits of being totally aligned with the source, if you have that burning desire, you will find the discipline to engage that practice of meditation, and then all the different celestial hands of God will begin to lead you on the path that is perfect for you. When you begin to experience that inner transformation, the things that you used to enjoy, you don't enjoy anymore. Oh, I used to go clubbing. I used to like my mojitos. I can't stand noise now. I'm going to say I can't stand crowds, but you know the kind of crowds I mean. You become truly transformed, and you begin to feel magnetized to your inner light. All the God attributes become amplified. It is work in progress. You have to have the discipline, and you must be devoted to it. And that's what I did for 4 years after my Great Awakening, day in, day out, day in, day out. Because I made a commitment to the Father, and my word is my bond. And He knows that. So, when you feel the call, answer. Because once you become united with the heart of God from within and the mind of God, you will feel as if you are here, you have a higher purpose in life. And the higher purpose is always service of some form or fashion. And if you desire to know that, you will get that from the source through your communion. I decided I was going to make myself an apprentice to God. I was going to, you know, they say if you want to become a master, you have to apprentice before you become a master. So I said I was going to make myself an apprentice to God. And I did that for those 4 years. And I'm still doing that. I have evolved my mastery to a great extent, and I'm still continuing on the journey because it's work in progress. But I made myself God's apprentice because I wanted to experience the fullness of God, the fullness of who I am. And the God presence is called the I am presence. And each of us have an I am. We have an I am presence. So I've been talking quite a lot. Before I open the floor for questions, I just simply want to say that meditation doesn't have to be a big deal. Don't be afraid. I'm pretty sure many of you, if not all of you here, engage in some form of meditation. It is simply finding a quiet place and using your breath to quiet your mind and release the thoughts and, you know, all the things that will over us for the day. The Father said to me, solitude is the most fruitful temperature for worship and meditation. Because that's when you can hear, that's when you can receive inspiration. And that's all you need to do. And then say, Father, I want to spend time with you. And you persevere with that, because that's what I did, until the faculties, the inner senses began to open up. That's your invisible telephone line, meditation. You can call God through the meditation line, and you will begin to have that experience as long as you persevere. Now, what is the purpose of our life on earth? What is the purpose of us incarnating on this earth plane? We are spiritual beings in a physical body, having a human experience in a material plane, in the interest of the evolution of our soul. I was taught that this body is a vehicle of consciousness loaned to us that we may master our free will. And mastery of your free will simply means coming to the point where you choose to align your will with the will of the source. One of the masters taught me, she said, the natural course of your life should always be the preferring of the love of God and the service of that God incarnate. The whole purpose of life is to find God, God within yourself, your talents, your calling, your sacred labor. Yes, we must take elements of life seriously, but we are here to enjoy life also, and to legitimize life by pouring the Spirit of God within us onto our works. You know, they talk about the kingdom of heaven on earth. Well, the kingdom of heaven cannot come on earth until it is established within each and every one of us. And that kingdom is not a physical place. It is a psychological state. It is a state of beatitude. And when we can experience the kingdom of heaven within each of us, we begin to project that into the outer world. It affects the collective consciousness, and the vibration of all can rise. So that's all I'm really going to say about the purpose. Obviously, we are separate for the purposes of functioning. We all have our individual paths. You know how to get to your higher purpose. You know that information will come through that inner communion, the inward cycle. We are living in very crucial times on the earth plane. Many of you have come to be way shores. Are you aware of that? You have come to be a beacon of light. The earth is ascending. She's currently in her third dimensional. She's on the cusp of fourth dimension. Dimension is a state of consciousness and vibration. And she has to ascend to the fifth because so the Creator has ordained. Now the earth is a part of a solar system, and every 25,556 years or so, the cycle comes to an end. Our sun completes its final revolution around the central sun, which is called Alcyone. And at that point in time, the portals on the planet open up, and the Father sends photon energy through these portals onto the earth plane. And that remodels the DNA of the earth, which affects our DNA. Yeah, everything. I was saying to them, a few Amanda before, and his girlfriend, that, you know, when a mother holds the baby in the womb, the baby's outer body is the mother's body, isn't it? Don't we call the earth Mother Earth? Are we not within the womb of the mother? Anything that affects earth affects us, negative or positive. So, as these photon energies are coming from the galaxy and the universe, it is remodeling the DNA, affecting the auric field of the earth, which is the electromagnetic field, causing the particle pulsation rate of the Earth's auric field to increase, and ours are responding to that. That is why so many people are opening up to higher ways of thinking now. They're exploring, they're asking questions, they want to know, why am I here? What is my purpose of being here? And they're beginning to read different books and exploring articles and so on the internet. So we are in the times of great change. You know when they talk about the second coming? The second coming first and foremost means the resurrection of the Christ within each of us. But we are in crucial, significant times where the earth is ascending and we are ascending. So it is very, very important that if we feel that we are called to service, or we feel that the inner stirrings of spirit prompts us to explore more with the source within ourselves, we must have the discipline to be able to inculcate that in our daily lives. Because all of you who attended here are special beings. Everyone is special. But those of you who have taken the time off from your evening to come here, you've been led here for a purpose. And I certainly feel, and I'm being guided to say that each of you have a role to play in Jamaica. When I was told that I had to come to Jamaica in June, I asked, well, why do I have to come to Jamaica? I was told that Jamaica is like a melting pot, and it's a funnel from an energetic point of view for the other Caribbean countries. And when the energy begins to shift in Jamaica, it will affect the grids throughout the Caribbean, and the energy shifts will begin to, people will begin to experience greater energy shifts. And I can say for a fact that between the last time I came in June and now, I feel that there are many people in Jamaica who are awakening. Many people who are coming into awareness of what I would call eternal realities. And many people are actually ready to do more to help their country and to help their fellow men. And each of you can be light bearers, light workers. And as I will end with a piece that the Father gave to me. I hope I can remember the whole thing. It's short. He says, onward, children, onwards, march towards the height, the pinnacle of glory where your spirit will alight. Do not fear the battle that plays out at your side, for the mighty iron presence will keep you in your stride. The mighty iron presence is the presence of God. Onward, children, onwards, bear the golden torch, beacons to the rescue, ardent for the cause. March with me to victory, a new world to behold. My rod and staff I give to you, who shepherds to my fold. Even at this moment, the Father is reaching in from within you, saying, will you take the staff? Are you prepared to be a beacon? Will you shepherd my fold here? He awaits your answer. And on that note, I will stop speaking and invite you to, how many do we have left? 15 minutes? Yes. Questions? Nobody has any questions? Yes. Go ahead, Amanda.
Do you recognize any of your guides from physical life?
Do I recognize
Any of your guides?
any of my guides from my physical life?
It's like somebody passed on and decided to become your guide.
No. Okay, he asked whether, each of us, we have guides in spirit, those who look after us. And before the soul incarnates, it agrees who some of those guides would be. And now some of those guides are people you would have known in past lives and you trust. And they have your well-being and best interest at heart. It doesn't mean to say that if you have someone who's a loved one here and they pass over, that they may not be your guide, but there's no hard and fast rule. It doesn't often happen, especially if that person needs to continue on their journey. Any other questions? You go ahead. It is because a lot of people refer to God as God is not no gender. It is just energy and consciousness. In fact, I would say Mother, Father, God. All right? Yes, Mother, Father, God. Do you know the word Israel? Israel, the place Israel. Israel means is Mother, Ra, Father, El, God. So Mother, Father, God makes up that consciousness. We all have a masculine and a feminine side. So no, I have no problems with that. And in fact, I just use that terminology because it's the accepted by most people. Okay?
Sometimes I'm unsure of how to approach the spiritual guidance, whether to approach the guides or to the
Okay. Well, the Father said You need no mediator. In other words, you need no intermediary between me and you. You can come to me directly. So I speak to my angels, but it's not a substitute to me communing with God. I go into God all the time. But you know, they say ABC. Remember this, ABC, always be connected to God. Walk in the rhythm of the divine and with the rhythm of the divine. Every day I say, Father, I walk in your rhythm and with your rhythm. I give you permission to live through me this day. I give you permission to speak through me this day. God, and guide me that I may not falter. Show me the way and illuminate my path with your light. I go to him directly. Well, the guides take care of your day-to-day things and the more mundane things in your life. But I always go to God for wisdom. I get my wisdom from the source. Questions? God? Well, if you go to God and you say your intention is to speak to the source, there's no one who can come in. And that is fine. Yes, we have guides, we have angels. That's fine. But you do have guides. There's one right behind you at the moment, female one. Okay? Yeah.
I've had experiences where a person has told me, boy, your angels are working overtime. I see things happening around you I'm not conscious of. I said, well, when your angels taking care of you, I'm not conscious of what they say. They tell you.
Yes.
They see things happening and
because you have, the angels and the spirit guides, they work just as this in our day-to-day life to help to make things manifest for us and things of that nature. Yeah. And you know, I asked the Father, I said, Father, what is your understanding? Or you could give me a definition or your perspective on angels, what would you say? He says, angels are the arms of the divine reaching down to lift up God's children into higher levels of consciousness. They're here to help to magnetize the our inner light. They're here to amplify the God attributes on earth. They are 100% pure light. They work in unconditional love. They are not separated from the divine. We are not separated from them. None of us are separated. But it is a conditioning of the mind that we need to change. Any other question?
It's not so much a question, more of a comment. You speak of the spirit of ego, and it resonated with me because for the last year I've been reading the Black Hamadi.
Yes.
And these are the texts that have just been discovered in 1945.
Right.
And it speaks specifically of how we have to kill the ego and the spirit of God that lives within us. And it's a profound paradigm shift for Christian culture.
Yes.
For the majority of Christians, which I accept.
Yes, it is. But we need the ego to assist us with our bodily functions. So this is what I say. If ever you feel the ego is rising up, I say, Father, unite your God, my mind, and shine out my ego. I relinquish it to the light of my spirit. Release your strength into my thoughts, words, deeds, and actions, and be custodians of my thoughts. Think with me. So you're inviting the Spirit of God to think with you instead of the ego mind or the carnal mind. You are saying that the ego is subject to the light of spirit. It's not going to die because you need it for your physical life, but it has to take its rightful place. I was taught that the ego is that which stands at the door of your soul, deciding whether to allow you passage. Yes. Okay? But we have to be vigilant that we don't respond with ego. And a lot of people respond with ego. There's nothing wrong in being humble. Yes, precisely. You know, the greatest power you can connect with is the power of God within yourself. That is called empowerment. Anything that you receive from the outer world in terms of status, money, power, okay, you need money. But in terms of status, money, and power, that feeds the ego. The Spirit of God feeds the Spirit, your spirit. It brings enlightenment, illumination. And that is what we need to begin to experience that kingdom of God within ourselves and to ascend to that higher dimension of thought. Question? Anybody has any questions? Still have 5 minutes. Or comments? Anything you'd like to say? Oh my.
I read a reference once on the internet that the ego is quite the devil. Is that a correct assumption?
No. He's saying that he read something on the internet which says the ego is the devil. The ego isn't the devil. Okay? The ego has its place in this incarnation. It's we that give it precedence. We are the ones, if we are able, baptized in the Spirit, and we begin to know things of the Spirit, we will step out of the uniform of humanism, step out of the masquerade of the carnal mind. Okay, the Antichrist is anything within or without you that causes the one true living God to be diminished. Okay? So if the ego causes that, yes, it is the Antichrist in that respect. But for all intents and purposes, it isn't.
Do you have any more information about what was happening in Jamaica or
I don't have any information about Jamaica in particular, but I feel very strongly, as I said to you before, that people have been placed Jamaica strategically for this incarnation to assist in shifting the energies. There are some heavy energies that are still here from the days of slavery. Okay? And all of you who are committed to working on yourself, as you begin to hold more light within yourself, you affect the earth plane here as well as others. So that's really all I can tell you. But from what they told me, if the energy shifts here, it will affect the energy going down the Caribbean. I'm not really sure what consciousness is like in the other parts of the Caribbean. I've been to Trinidad, and yeah, there are people who are awakening, and I'm sure they're in their closets because they're afraid to come out and speak their truth. One of the things when you begin to feel the presence of God, feel that oneness and unity, you have no fear. You will stand up for your convictions and your belief, and you will speak with wisdom, fearing nothing. Okay? We have to stand in our spiritual shoes, regardless of what people see. Any other comments or questions? Don't be shy. Okay then. Well, yes.
This will be the only seminar you will go to.
That's what? Yes.
Also, so myself a great listener, and I listen on and I listen as well.
Have to listen on.
And I learn some more.
Listen some more. Right. I don't have any plans whilst I'm here to do another session. For some reason I was guided to do this, and I feel those of you who have attended were the ones that were meant to be here. Okay? Yeah. Okay. Good. Well, I'm humble in service to God and humble in service to each and every one of you, my brothers and sisters of the soul, and I bow to you. Okay? I do not know you in this physical live stream, but I love you all. You're part of me and I'm a part of you. Okay, I embrace you in my heart. Yes. Okay. Yes.
and
speak your truth. Good. Please. Yeah.
You were led
Yes.
to fit or to come to Jamaica as the funnel.
Yes. Yes. Perfect. You know what I'm being guided to say to each of you? Invite the Father to begin to speak through you. You never know who's going to come into your life at any moment, who will walk past you. And you never know why it is that these people or persons are being sent your way. Always be prepared. Always say, Father, I do not know who's going to be coming my way today, but I give you permission to speak through me so that whatever they need to hear, you minister to them through me. Okay? And you're serving. You don't have to do something for the world to see. Service is at different levels. God doesn't compare one person's service to another person's service. It is the striving, it is the desire and the intent that God looks at. It is the longing of the heart that moves God rather than the words from your lips. There are bountiful gifts that the Father has for each of us. We just need to reach Him and say, I'm ready. Yeah, the Earth has been in the photon belt since 1992. And the photon belt is a band of energies from the galaxy, PHOTON. The photon energies is called father energies. Okay? And those energies are infused. You know, we are in what is called a period of a stellar activation cycle. And they're infused into the portals and the grids, etc. And that is what begins to stimulate and affect our Merkabas, our chakras, our auric field, and things of that nature.
So do you foresee physical changes on the pathway in the next 3-4 years?
Yes, and it's already started. Look at what is going on. Look at the weather aberrations and changes, and look at what is happening in Philippines and what has happened this year in many parts of the world. It is happening. People need to look up. They need to not be afraid, but to just keep their eyes open and recognize that, you know, people always feel that things will happen, bam. It doesn't happen like that. It happens slowly and bam. But if you are paying attention, you can be prepared. No man knoweth the hour. For the ascension, the ascension, the changes that the earth is going through. Yeah.
There are some people who say that the photon belt as a gradual progression as we proceed from the center of the equinox to Alcyon.
Yes, Alcyon.
And we will have 3 years of darkness, 3 years of...
Well, that was predicted in the Bible, wasn't it? It was said in the Bible, and if it was said in the Bible, from my knowledge, I would say that be prepared for anything. Okay? But you never fear, because when you work with God, you have no need to fear. But be prepared for anything. Okay? Alright, so I think that we need to vacate this room now. Victor? I want to thank Victor and Roz for assisting in the organizing. They have been such stalwarts for me whilst I've been here. They've really facilitated quite a lot. So I just want to give them acknowledgement and love. Okay? So I'll step outside. If as you walk, we come outside, you want to ask questions or have a chat, that's fine. Okay? And just to mention, thank you. My book is available on Amazon. I only bought a few copies. It's called The God Within Speaks. An inner pilgrimage to the soul of wisdom. And a lot of the message here I received from the divine. Very inspiring. Would you Kindle? Kindle? Oh, so listen. Well, now I have to go and dictate it out.
Waiting, whereas we have an audio.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's available on Kindle or If you have Kindle to download it from Amazon, or you could buy the book from Amazon. Amanda bought it, didn't you? Yeah. So he's been reading it. Okay. And I have some of my cards here. As you go out, I will give you these cards. Where's David?